One, two, three, test. Have you ever watched a lab setup on YouTube and thought, this is cool, but is it going to really work? Well, you're not wrong here. In this video, we're going to kick off a series where we design real networks for real use cases. A warehouse in this case that needs to be fully connected, secure, and ready to support operations from day one. We're going to walk you through the actual professional setup that follows information gathering to choosing the right vendors, selecting the right equipment, and creating a clear network diagram that brings it all together. So if you're tired of checking configs and want to learn how to approach a network design like an architect, stick around, let's dive in and start building this warehouse network the right way.
Have you ever seen a network lab filled with high-end gear, every protocol configured perfectly? But in the real world, that setup would never fly. Now let's talk about why most labs are not real networks and what real-world design actually looks like. Now don't get me wrong, labs are great for learning, but here's the thing. Real-world networks are designed for business outcomes. They're not built to pass an exam or show off a config skill. Take this example. This lab, they've been thrown multiple routers, switches. Sounds awesome, right? But none of them align sometimes with an actual business needs. Or if you got a single point of failure right in the middle, like in some labs I've seen that, you've not built a solution, you just build a toy. In this case, let's start and build real networks with real scenarios. Step one that you ever want to do is, so in a real network project, step one isn't racking the gear. Step one is understanding the business. Most cases, the customer will give you a scope. What are those critical applications? How many users? What happens if a network goes down? And let's be honest, what's the budget? The last one is a deal breaker. Most businesses aren't just going to throw tens and thousands of dollars at a gear unless there is a solid ROI or return on investment. In this case, we're looking at it's a warehouse with 100,000 square feet, office area is about 9,000 square feet. They're giving me a ceiling height. They're telling me that there are about 100 users, no guests, only employees. Type of work, okay, assume this is general warehousing, which means scanning with barcode scanners and moderate data uses, nothing critical there. Now at this point, if you feel like you don't have enough to start, this is where you can start asking more questions, like type of devices you're going to be using. What kind of barcode scanner? Are you going to be using some sort of tablets? What laptops do you have? What type of inventory or material are you going to be storing in your warehouse? Because density is definitely going to affect the Wi-Fi propagation. Are there liquids there? Network performance requirements. What kind of requirements are you looking at? Sometimes they cannot give you that answer directly, but then you have to understand what application are they using. Throughput and latency are some things to keep in mind. Are there any servers on-prem? What about your camera system? Is it going to be integrated with the same network we're building? What about Wi-Fi phones? All those are good questions to ask. Now, step two also is to understand that if it's a greenfield versus brownfield. Now, before even we start designing, we need to understand the key question. Does the customer already have an existing network, or are we starting from scratch? Why does it matter? Now, this one question helps you guide everything that follows, especially, let's say, vendor selection. If they already have something in place, we might want to stay aligned to avoid any compatibility or a training issue. Now, vendor preference check would be once we confirm whether it's an existing or a net new network, we want to check if the customer has any vendor preferences. A lot of times they have already made an investment or already are comfortable with a certain ecosystem or have made up their mind as they've got some good reviews from some other peers working in the same sort of environment, like a warehouse in this case. So in this case, I'm making an assumption customer prefers Cisco Meraki, let's say. That's an assumption from my side. They've got a small IT team and they need something easy to manage without being very over complex. So Meraki is a great fit here as it offers centralized management from a single dashboard, which most vendors do these days, to be honest. And there is also a mobile app that lets you monitor and manage the network on the go from your phone itself. Then you also ask for floor plans if they are not provided to you, because that's going to be very crucial to this step. Next thing is, okay, as I said already, what kind of vendor selection? How do you start? We gathered all the initial requirement. As I said, it is at this point you need to be sure that okay, what vendor you want to go with, or if you have a couple of vendors. Now this might, as I said to you before, directly come from the customer. They've already made up their mind on a certain platform, or they might ask you or us for recommendations. Now, in case the customer is unsure, we can help them by matching vendors to their needs, considering factors like size of the IT team, existing infrastructure, ease of management, long-term scalability. and all those things. And sometimes what I have done also with my customers is show them demo of multiple vendors to see which one they like. Now, to be honest, this has been always a race of which vendor is better. In my opinion, honestly speaking, they all are pretty good and they're all doing a great job. So it's all about which vendor is fitting in which scenario. I think it makes more sense. Sometimes it could be just budget because I was able to get a better discount from a certain vendor than the other. For this project, as I already mentioned, let's say the customer chose the Cisco Meraki. It's a great option because small IT team, easy, everything is through a single pane of glass and a mobile app, not to forget about that. Once a vendor is finalized, the next step is to select the actual equipment. Now, this is where all the discovery work we did earlier really pays off. We take the warehouse size, the user count, the number of devices, POE requirements, environmental conditions, and head over to the datasheet or the vendor tools to make selections. In this case, I'm going to use a tool that Meraki offers, which is the Meraki Sizing tool, which is a browser with all the options there. Now, to help you pick the right switches, access points, or security appliances for the job. Now, it's super helpful. It guides you based on the use case, user count, and throughput. So remember, vendor selection is a strategic decision, but once it's made, it's all about mapping the real world requirements to the right gear. No overkilling or undersizing here. This is how the Meraki portfolio looks like. Now, if you're somebody who's not comfortable with Meraki or not aware of what Meraki is, it's going to be hard for me to go through each and everything in this video, but just to give you a quick heads up is MR is really the Meraki access points. R stands for radio, MS is the Meraki switches, MX is the Meraki firewall slash router, whatever you want to call it at this point. Other options right now, we're not going to look into that. So let's start either from the bottom or from the top. Now, generally, I start from the top, so I want to start MXs. Okay, perfect. So what kind of MX should I look at? Now, the customer did tell me that they are looking for a 2 gig internet circuit, for example, in this case. Now, I just made that up. Okay, so I can go with this appliance here because don't forget it's giving me two WAN ports. Okay, and then it has some LAN ports here as well, which also gives me some 10 gig SFP options. Now, firewall throughput is about 2.5 gig, and advanced security throughput is about 1.5 gigs. What does 1.5 and 2.5 really means? Now, advanced security means if I've turned on all the security features, I can go up to 1.5 gigs. Technically, I have two connections with is two, but the customer is looking for basic security. I'm thinking this is a good box. If they want to go one more higher up, then obviously they can go high up with this one as well, because this one will give advanced security throughput up to 2 gigs also. So I decide that, okay, you know what, I'll go with this option right here. And if you're, and why this tool is amazing is because what you can do is you can start picking up. Now, if you don't understand the licensing, it's just that different license comes with different options, what you're going to try and do. You definitely need to pick up this. Say we pick up just advanced security, how many years? And then we say, would you like to include Meraki Insight? For an example, I say no. Again, it's a product specific thing, so we'll not worry about that right now. Throughput, I can give what throughput am I looking at. I could give 2 in this case. It's in megabit per second, so I got to be mindful there. I want to do megabit per second, not a gig. But the point is here, what's the WAN speed? I'm looking at 1 gig. When I do this, it basically narrows down on what devices can I pick. So as I said, I will decide that I'm going to pick up. If I want to go ahead more, it's telling me that this is your ordering information. When you order, you need to order one of this, and then obviously because you ordered for a 5-year license, you need to order this part as well. Now, if I want to go ahead more deep, if I click on the data sheet, it will basically take me to the data sheet, and I will get little more information that I want. So these are the firewalls that I'm picking up. Now I'm going to pick two of them. Since I've picked up a Meraki option, it has concept of a active standby, which is an active and a warm spare, which means one will be active forwarding, the other will be just sitting there. And also, since I know Meraki enough, I know for a fact that I don't need to buy two licenses. I buy two hardware, but only one license, as only one is active. That's just how the licenses work for this particular vendor. That's why you need to understand which vendor you're picking up. Their licensing model could be a little different than the one that I just picked up now. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Once you've done all that, once you've selected what kind of firewall do you want, then I move on to my switches. Okay, so now again, I'm going to pick up just an enterprise, let's say 5 years. Yes, I need PoE. How about I need PoE plus? Yes, I need stacking. How many switches will we be stacking? Let's say for now I'm saying, okay, three. Yes, I'm looking for layer three. When I start picking up all these options, basically what it does is it narrows it down for me to only these few options. Looking at this, I say, okay, let me start with a 9300L. Let's say I decided that. And then even that has a flavor of what do you need from those ones. Do you need a 24P, which is PoE? Do you need PF? And again, if you don't understand the difference, you click on the data sheet, they give you details of what those exactly are. Now, this is where you do your research as an architect or as a network engineer to pick up which one option would you like to do. Let's say I'm liking the option which is this one right here, or I can go with this one. This gives me a little more options, as I said. So up to you based on what you've decided. Let's pick up one of these, right? We go back, we say, yep, I'm going to pick up these. And that tells me this is the PoE, this is the capability on the switch. And you have to make sure that you have the right PoE budget because eventually you'll have to figure out that these switches are going to be powering up your APs, right? So that's how you pick up your switches. Now next is your MR, which is your, okay, let's go with one of the latest standards if you want, but if you want to go one behind, so let's pick that for example. Just an enterprise, same 5 years. What options do I have left? I have these two options left. Now, you have to understand that this AP is, let's say, 2 by 2. This AP is 4 by 4, which is more suited for more higher density. This is for less density. In a warehouse, which I'll show you when we talk about it, that we can actually pick multiple kind of APs for different locations. For example, for an office area where I'm looking for a little more high density, I'm going to pick up this option. And then for the overall warehouse, I might be able to pick up this option. Now, why would I do that? Is because let's say cost of this particular device is $3,000 as compared to this one is around $1,600. So half the price approximately, give or take. This is list price I'm talking right now. That's the difference, right? You're making sure that your customer is getting the right value of money for what they have purchased. They also have an option of data sheets. So yes, you can look at the data sheet, look at what are the different options available, antennas if I need to have one. What are the mounting options I have available? Would you need to order them? This is a little demo of how the Meraki sizing tool helped me pick up the right equipment. All right, so now let's go back and start analyzing the Wi-Fi coverage requirements. When designing Wi-Fi for a warehouse, one of the first thing we need to balance is coverage versus capacity. And no, they're not the same. Coverage is all about signal reach. We want to make sure that Wi-Fi is available across each inch of warehouse from loading docks to the furthest aisle that's there. Capacity, on the other hand, is all about performance. We're able to have enough access points to support all the devices. For example, if I have an office area which is more busy, where I have a meeting rooms where all the people, maybe they might say, okay, from this time to this time, there will be nobody in the warehouse, but everybody will be come and we'll have like a meeting where we'll be talking about what are the next steps and stuff like that. So basically, all those 100 users are concentrated in that little space, which is the office space. We need to have enough APs there so they're able to kind of handle all those users. So as I said, in our case, we're looking to have about 100 users. If the warehouse hasn't been built, we start with a predictive, which means we'll predict how the signal is going to go. There are tools available for that. The ones that come in my mind are Ekahau or Hamina, which is again, depending on which tool you like and which one would you like to use. And then this is when the warehouse has a blueprints. So you can look at those maps and kind of simulate the coverage and performance on the softwares, as I said, like Hamina and Ekahau come in my mind. But for that, definitely you need a floor plan. Or if there is an existing already warehouse which is up and running, then you can use an AP on a stick. That's the floor plan, for example. That's the big warehouse. That's the office space. Now I'm using the 91, say 64s here, the 91 62s here in this area. This is where I'm looking for just the coverage. This is where I'm looking for capacity because you see there could be a lot of people who will be this in office space. So you can do a predictive design and it will show you how the coverage looks like. Now that's the one that I did. This was using Hamina quickly. But if the warehouse is already functional with the racks, inventory, and people are moving around, then the best option is to do an AP on a stick. This lets us physically test the AP placement and measure real world signals, because in here, don't forget, I'm doing assumptions. And if my assumptions are wrong, then my real footprint might not look the way the tool is showing me. Because see, tools are only here to assist us. They cannot correct if I put in wrong information. So depending on the stage of the build, we either simulate like this one or test in real world environment with AP on a stick. But in both the cases, the goal is same: stronger, reliable, and efficient Wi-Fi. And once you've deployed it, always recommended as a Wi-Fi person is that you go ahead and do a post-site survey. Okay, in either cases, when you use the AP, you make sure you pick the AP that the customer is going to be deploying. For example, in this case, let's say I'm going to be using 9164 in the office space. I put them there. And if I'm being using 9162 here, then I pick, if I would have picked up something else like an MR46, then you put that there. All right. Now, as I said, now selecting an access point is only part of the puzzle, right? To actually make them all work, we need to have the right infrastructure, starting from switches, power, and security. When I talk to you about all those things where we're looking at, okay, once I've done the simulation, now I know how many access points I need. So I know how many access points I need, now I know what power budget I need, what ports do I need, right? This is where you go back to your tool, the one that I showed you before, to look for and understand that what kind of power budget should I be looking at. Okay, so this is absolutely critical. This is critical as access points require power over Ethernet, so we can match the AP power that is found on the data sheet with the total PoE budget available on the switch. And not just the total, we also look per port output as well. Like how much maximum can a port pull out? Like for example, if it's only PoE, but my AP is looking for PoE plus, then it might not work properly. Next up is security, right? So for Meraki, like usually means the MX series that we looked at. The one we were looking at was the MX95. And just like with APs, we size it based on users' expected throughput and whether if we need features like VPN, content filtering, or SD-WAN. And don't forget the license, as I mentioned before, and I showed you, we picked up the 5-year option there. Meraki runs on subscription model, so we need to include right enterprise or say advanced security license in this case. Now, based on the features set we plan to use for the future. While AP selection, as I said, is important, it's just one piece. The switch provides the power connection and the firewall secures the edge and the licenses puts it all together. It's not just the hardware, it's the software as well to make sure the network runs smoothly and has the right kind of support. Now, once you've done that, a network diagram gives everyone, the engineers, the decision makers, the installer, a clear view of how many devices there are and how are they connected and what type of cabling is required. So let's talk about our warehouse as an example. If we have access points spread throughout the space in the warehouse of over 100,000 square feet, we can't run cables all the way from the MDF, which is the main computer room, at one end, because Ethernet has a 100-meter limit. So we're likely to place a switch somewhere in the middle of a warehouse like an IDF, so we can power those APs close to where they are actually needed. This also helps with the cable management and performance. The diagram also helps us decide on the right type of cabling, Cat5, fiber uplinks between the switches, PoE for APs, and so on, right? And here's where it really becomes valuable for the customer. Now think of this like an architect showing you a blueprint of your dream house. Now you can say, I want one more window here, or can you add a door on the side? The network diagram lets customer visually understand what's being proposed and making the changes before anything is purchased or deployed, right? So don't underestimate the power of a diagram. It's not just a technical drawing, it's a visual contract between your design and the customer expectation. If you like the diagram, check the video I posted on how to create network diagrams. And by the way, this is done for free in PowerPoint. And that's about it.
And that's it, folks, for this video. Thanks for sticking around, and we walked you through how to approach a real-world network design. This isn't just another lab simulation. We are designing a functional, scalable network for a warehouse that needs to run efficiently, connect people and devices, and support day-to-day operations. Now, from understanding space to selecting the right vendor and equipment to building out a high-level network diagram, this is how real networks are planned before a single cable is pulled. In this next part, we'll dive into the protocols and the technology we can use to actually bring this design to life. So Wi-Fi is up, devices are connected, and the warehouse can start shipping products out of the door. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and don't miss the part 2. Drop Until next time, build smart, build real. See you then. Until the next one. Bye for now.